Welcome to the Tiffany Micah podcast. What we do here is build the strength and courage in you to accomplish your big dreams and goals in your sport. No longer will you feel limited. You won't feel you're not good enough. You won't question whether you will make it. Those doubts will disappear because you will have the competitive edge over your opponents and leave them in your wake. And the bonus is others will notice. Listen up and take notes because I will show you exactly how to do it. Hey there, this is Tiff from Tiffany Micah Podcast and welcome to today's episode. Well, here we are. It's the end of the week. Another lessons learned. There's some interesting lessons that we're especially learning right now thanks to the COVID-19 and what's going on around the world. And I think it's really good to look at some lessons that we learned from that along the way and also ways in which we can look to improve ourselves in not only just in our sport, but everything that we actually do. So what we're going to be looking at today is really looking at spending the time to teach. And as we're adapting to a modified way of life, especially for the time being because of the COVID-19, we've had to learn how to do things differently. So if you're at school, you've had to learn how to adapt, learning online. Parents as well have had to learn how to work from home. People without children have had to learn how to work from home. Some people have been laid off from work, and it's a really challenging and tough time right now. It's a time for adjustment for everyone. Everyone in the world is going through the same thing. It's quite an amazing and surreal type experience right now because, everybody gets it. Everybody gets that everybody's going through this. It's not, if somebody had cancer or something like that, you could feel for them, but if you haven't been through the experience, you don't really understand it. Whereas here we're all going through this, everybody in the world is going through the same experience and going through the same emotions right now. So you can really understand how people are feeling and what they're going through. Quite interesting also watching human behavior and how people behave as well. But the big thing I see too is that a lot of people really struggling with change. And a lot of people actually don't like change. And so it's a big time of adjustment for everyone. And my husband, Coxie, that's his nickname. Everyone calls him Coxie. His last name's Cox, so everyone calls him Coxie. So Coxie was at the supermarket the other day and he was at the checkout, and the checkout staff at the supermarket no longer will pack groceries due to the COVID-19, even though that supermarket like Aldi, they never pack groceries anyway, so people accept that. So the supermarket we go to here in Australia is Woolworths, more so than Coles, but we go to Woolworths, and Coxie goes to Woolworths. And he said this man was actually going off his tree and he was abusing the staff because they wouldn't pack his groceries. And just under the rules of what we're doing right now, obviously we're trying to limit the amount of things that, people touch and the social distancing and so on. And his comment was, well, I suppose Woolies will have to come and pay me to come here then. And all it is that he's just not adapting and he's just not coping with the change that's going on right now. And, that's okay. People do struggle with change. They really do struggle with change, especially when people get quite set in their ways. But that's not us though, is it? As an athlete, as a sports person, as a business person, as someone who wants to accomplish goals, we learn to adapt. Yep, it's uncomfortable, but the thing is that we've got to be versatile. And again, that's what champions do. And that's the lesson that we've got to learn this week. Is we're going to be looking at spending the time to teach. And I think this is the really important area right now, to spend the time to teach. And why I say that is because I've been working with my niece Evie. She's 12. She's in year 7 she's first year of high school. She'll be 13 soon. And so she's been having to learn how to adjust to online learning and so on. And, she misses her school friends. She's a very social person, and nothing wrong with that. I think that's great that she's, really social. But she's really been struggling from an online learning perspective. And I'm sure that you might be going through the same thing too. And 2 reasons that she's actually struggling with it. And one is that she doesn't know how to give herself the structure that she needs. And she loves structure. Most people respond really well to structure. At school you have a timetable that you follow. So there's that structure there. You have people that are there, the teachers that are there that teach you. And most of us do. We respond so much better to structure. I love structure. I respond so much better to structure. If I'm on holidays, it's fine. That's not a problem. But if I don't have structure in my week, I'm all over the place. So I make sure that I create structure so that I know what I'm doing. And so most kids, and I've taught a lot of kids over the years, I had a sports skills business for kids. They do. They thrive on structure. You give them structure, they perform so much better. And you'll find that in what you do too, like with your training and your practice and what you do in your sport. Having that structure, the understanding of what you got to do with the technique, which is structure as well, gives you control, okay? You perform better. You know what to do. You don't feel so lost, right? So the second reason is that the online process has been quite difficult as well for her to navigate through. And what's happened, I think the teachers have really struggled with this as well. This is just what I've seen, is that they've been putting a lot of their work up online, a lot of assignments, but there's actually been no interactive teaching there. And how do we learn most things? Well, mostly we learn from someone else teaching us, like a coach or a teacher. Or we model what someone else does, like we copy them, or we read up on something, we try it out, we watch videos, but we look and learn. Like we're always doing, I do plenty of them, online courses and so on, or I'll go to an event where I can learn something, I'll watch videos, take notes, I'll read, all that kind of thing, so that I'm learning, right? And wanting to improve. Because obviously that's what we want to do. We want to improve. But when you're sort of thrown in the deep end and you're left to figure it out, and you don't really know how to do that because you haven't been shown how to do that, that's where you then struggle. And you're sort of floundering. It's almost like you don't know how to swim, and somebody throws you in the pool and goes, okay, well, see if you can swim to the other side. And your arms are flapping around in the pool, and trying to keep your head above water. And you're struggling, and you get to the other side, but you don't do it in a way of control, right? It's more of a struggle. So when I was talking to my mum, she was telling me how Evie, my niece, was really struggling to get through her work, and my mum's been really helping her younger sister because she's younger, so she needs more attention. And my sister and her husband, they work full time and they've still got their job, which is great. So they're quite busy. So Evie, my 12-year-old niece, has been left to sort of figure things out, and it can be really overwhelming. And it's a very overwhelming when you haven't been shown what to do. So that's where a big challenge is. So I rang up Evie and I said to her, look, because I'm very much on structure, so I love helping people create structure and getting them overcoming that overwhelm and getting them to really focus on what has to be done. And so I rang her up and I said, look, sweetie, would you like me to help you get organised? Because from what Grandma's telling me is that, you're really struggling. And she was like, "Oh, that'd be great, Auntie Tiff. I'd really love it." And I couldn't actually go and work with her one-on-one though. I could only, I had to do that because of, obviously we've got restrictions. I live an hour away from where they live, even though we all live in the same city in Sydney here. But due to restrictions, I can't get over there. So I worked with her through Zoom. So this past week, and we've only been doing it over the past week because now they're on school holidays. But over this past week, I've been meeting her at 8:30 in the morning. And we call it our school bus trip. So we're pretending that we're on the bus riding to school and we're catching up and we're talking about the day. So what I got her to do initially on the first day was I got her to show me what her online learning was through her portal of what they're working through so I could get an understanding. And when she took me through it, I was like, whoa, no wonder she's overwhelmed, poor little poppet. There's so much there. And everything's just thrown in there. And I was like, oh, no wonder she's overwhelmed. And she's like that person that's been thrown out into the middle of the pool that can't swim and, figure out a way to get to the side of the pool, right? So she's just really floundering. So she took me through it. So what I did was there was an area in which you could look at what was due. So that's what we then focused on. So I said to her, look, looks like these are the assignments that are due. And what I want you to do is we're going to work through what's due, and then we'll create a plan around that. So she had a notebook. So what we did, we wrote down the date and we called it her list of soccer goals, like, goals that she had to score for the day because she plays soccer. So I said, let's make this a fun thing. And what we did was we looked at what was due. We made a list of the assignments that were due, and then we prioritized which ones. So that we knew that the ones that she had to do that were the most important, that were due on the day, especially, then she knew what she had to focus on. So what we did was we broke it down and we made it really simple, picked out all the most important areas that she had to focus on, and then that was her list. And it's like, if you go to I love gelato, right? So if you go to a gelato bar, I do love pizza too, by the way. Pizza and gelato are probably my two favourites. But when you go to a gelato bar and you've got like 30 plus flavours and you're like, there's so much to choose from, it can be quite overwhelming. Like you get all excited because there's so many things, but it's hard to make that decision. And so, I look at everything and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd like to have this. But at times, I get overwhelmed by everything and I always go back to my two favourites because I don't want to miss out on my two favourites. Two favourites are hazelnut and mint choc chip. Love it. And I like to keep it really simple. And I don't have it very often, so I always look at the two flavours that I love best and I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I'm going to have that, right? So what was happening with Evie was there was so much information there. It's like the gelato. There's so much there. It can be so overwhelming and you're not really sure what to do. Which flavour do I choose? What do I do? Do I have this one? Do I do that? Do I do that first? Do I have that? What do I do? So what we do here and what I want you to get an understanding of is, okay, we teach. We learn to teach. Now, I've been teaching for a long time. I've been teaching sport for a long time. I've learnt how to play lots of sports over the years, really been really good at, specific sports because I've focused more on those. But I've also learnt how to teach. I could teach any sport because I know how to teach. I know how to break things down. So what I did with her was that, okay, she didn't know what to do. She was overwhelmed. She wasn't getting anything done. She was working all day but struggling and floundering. So what we did was we created that structure. So what we did with that soccer goal list, as such as we called it, every time she completed an assignment, she scored a goal, didn't she? And we only did this throughout this last week of this 4 days leading up, because it's now Easter as I'm recording this episode. But we only did it for the 4 days. So the first 2 days, we really spent a lot of time on teaching her how to get the focus on one thing at a time. There's a big point there, big clue for you. Because she was all over the place. She was click, 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 click everywhere. And I was like, whoa. And I was seeing how distracted she was because there's so much information there. And I said, whoa, hang on. Let's go back. Let's break it down. Let's make it really simple and look at what we need to be focusing on, prioritizing. Okay, what's due? Then let's make a priority list of what needs to be done. The third day, so the first 2 days, that's what we really focused on, was getting that focus back. The third day, she really struggled to focus, and her mum was there as well, and we're both talking to her, and so her mum's sitting next to her, and I'm talking to her mum, and I'm talking to Evie, and the bunny rabbit Dougal, he hasn't been well either, so she's been all over the place with that as well, and I found it really frustrating that day. So I left the bus trip wondering if I had any progress with her, had made any impact with her, and I did leave knowing that she had done that list for the day, but I was like, oh, is she going to get through that list? She seemed all over the place. I hope she's okay. The fourth day, this was so exciting. The fourth day, what actually happened was that we got on our bus trip, normal, get together at 8:30 in the morning on Zoom, and she got out a notebook. She wrote the date at the top, and she wrote the soccer goals that she wanted to kick for the day. Then she looked at what was due. She wrote out what she needed to do. I didn't say anything. I just listened. Then she numbered them and gave them a priority and was set to go. She said, okay, Auntie Tiff, I'm ready. Wow. I was really blown away that we could get her to that point in just a few days, that she could organize herself and gain some control. And you know what that did for her? That gave her the feeling of, she felt like she was in control, and she felt really good about herself. Because when you get so overwhelmed with stuff and you're floundering and you just don't know what to do, like you're drowning, right? And it's consuming you, and you just don't take any action because it's so overwhelming. And that's how she was feeling. And throughout this last week, we were able to give her some control. We were able to show her how to organize herself. And by that fourth day, which it blew me away, was she knew exactly what she needed to focus on, what was due, what the priorities were, and she was set to go. And she finished, the school hours are usually between 9 and 3, and that's what she's been working on. Apparently she was finished about 12:30 that day. Right now, so then she became on holidays, but the thing was she was so proud of herself that she was able to do that. I was incredibly proud of her too. And it was really exciting. It was really exciting to be able to help someone do that. So how do we come about that? How was she able to do that? Well, I taught her how to do it. And I'm not patting myself on the back here. That's not about that. But that's how we learn, right? We get taught. And I get that. I've been taught. I have lessons. I have guitar lessons. The sports I've played over the years. How to get the technique right? I've been taught. I've done plenty of sports. I've done plenty of courses. So I've learnt how to be a student. But also the other thing is, because I've coached for so long as well, I know how to teach. And when you teach, it's such an impactful skill. So what I want you to understand is that you can teach what you're doing. Because if you teach what you're doing, you can understand it so much better. So if you don't know how to do something, then you've got to learn how to teach it to yourself, right? So there's the skill of learning how to teach, because I want you to develop that skill. There's the skill of, once you've learnt how to teach, it's the skill of learning how to break it down and simplifying it. Because what happens when you do that is you gain a better understanding. Look at Evie, my niece, like in 4 days, just spending, half an hour, 45 minutes with her each morning trying to get her focused and organised. By that 4th day, she was teaching me. It was awesome. She knew exactly what to do, took control. But what I want you to understand is that you can do this too. If you don't know how to do something, go and learn how to do it. Then teach yourself how to do it. Break it down. Simplify it so that you gain a better understanding of it. And then you could go and teach it to someone else. That's the best way to learn. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Learn to teach something to someone else. Even something that you are working on yourself in your sport. Go and teach it to someone, one of your family members. Say, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to see how I do that? They might not get it, but that's okay. But you're teaching them the specific technique because you're understanding it so much better. Something to think about, isn't it? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Love it if you could share with me what you like best about what you heard today. If you've got friends that you know that would benefit from these episodes, love it too if you could share with your friends, because we want to build the successful athlete community as big as we possibly can. So dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams. Take care. Don't go anywhere, just hang on. Don't go anywhere. Let's crush it when we compete. Come on. Have you signed up yet for the Successful Athlete Masterclass? We look at what's holding you back, what skills you will need to succeed, and how to accomplish your sports goals. Go to tiffanymica.com/Sam. Look forward to seeing you there. Dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams. Let's crush it when you compete.